makes no sense to me. The other side of the coin, though, is the potential for films to think more locally. And by locally, I mean from an African perspective. One of the things I did quite a bit of work in Tanzania over the years, and the sheer size of the Swahili language market is mind blowing. I mean, like, I think there are like 140 million people who speak Swahili.
Yeah.
And imagine, imagine, imagine simply making films for the Swahili market. If you're from a country like Namibia, where at that point, you have 2.5 million people in your audience, but suddenly you're going to make some films in Swahili because that gets you money.
Can I can I
I,
can I just jump in there for a minute? So I think this context that we're talking about with this film commissions thing. So the African Film Commissions Network that we started up, right? I think the stumbling block there, because we try to have meetings, Martin, we've tried to have meetings and meetings and trying to get this office up and trying to get funding, literally looking for like 2.5 million rand. Okay. It's not a lot of money, okay, to try and set up this office. And then you stumble across things like legislation and legal terminologies, and you can't in one country you can't see the word film commission because it's not in the legislation, and and it's all of these wonderful things. And I think that the intent is there from the recent meetings that we have. I think we had a couple of meetings last year. The intent was there, and there was a whole plan to have, create funding for African filmmakers to travel from country to country and only like ring fence money to only go to African markets, to only go to African film festivals, to then go and find co-producing partners and go and find the audiences and go and find these people. But that hasn't happened. And I really have to ask the question as to why not? Like, the proposals have been put out. How better can we start to really start gelling this together? Um, we had a discussion about dubbing in one of the previous podcasts about using the language use as a tool for audiences, as a tool for backdrop, as a tool for communication, as a tool for growth, as a tool for whatever. And insane. And the example I was given was, okay, guys, we dub a production that's in English, right, into isiZulu, right? Got that. Or we do the other way around. There's a production that is 100% in isiZulu, but you want to get to the Lesotho market. They may not hear the language. So now you want to dub it into English. I'm like, no, 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 no. Dub it into another African language. And it's not hard to do because now you're really talking about that kind of, inclusiveness for our content, but you're also ensuring that those who have a very strong Africa approach or are very like, I just want to watch something in my own language, not English, not Portuguese, not French, not German, none of those languages. But you, like you say, in Swahili, you will have a broader market. I'm not saying that people that the in the east coast of our continent do not speak English or anything else, but I'm sure they would appreciate us dubbing from isiZulu into Swahili. I am so sure about it. And the discussion was that actually there is an intent to do that. But I think that's about the, moving the needle to satisfy an African economy because the other economies are not looking at us anymore. If those statements, and I'm looking forward to that policy document that he's going to put together, I'm really going to read it with a fine-tooth comb. But for me, it's just like, okay, fine, how do we then make sure that we are building an African film economy, ensuring that we can start building our own streamers. We can start reigniting the cinema industry. I mean, Ghana, the National Film Authority of Ghana, they have launched on, and it's their third year in this year, is the Africa Cinema Summit, which discusses literally nothing else except for cinema on the continent. Why do we not have cinema? Why do we not have distribution in cinema? Why are we not building cinemas? Why are we not building audiences? What is the opportunities? What are the challenges? How do we radicalize all of that? How do we radicalize our stories that they are globally African stories? And you're saying, I love the example of Namibia's 2.5 million people, Botswana's 2.5 million people, Zimbabwe is a similar number of people, but they're wanting to expand. And incidentally, Namibia is Afrikaans is one of their languages, right? You've got Afrikaans, you've got English, and then they have 11, a gang of other languages of their own. but we're not exploring that and we're not allowing them to explore other markets. Is how can we help the film commissions understand the strategy that we've tried to be put together? That okay, guys, all we're asking is 2.5 million rands to get this African Film Commissions network up and off the
Mm.
ground, have an office.
Well, again, I think it's largely because um, they are trying to argue with people who still think of the entertainment industry as entertainment and not industry. Um, that so it may well be that the film commissions understand it perfectly well, but when they go back to their political bosses, they are simply not going to unlock that kind of money. I mean, I've been very interested to see these kind of new initiatives coming out to try and reconnect the business of film. I mean, Satengi started, that was its initial purpose. And now you have the markets in Cape Town, and I'm quite interested to see how they progress over the next few years. It will be, fascinating to see. But I think, yeah, for me, it's become a bit of a conundrum of how this works. I also, for the people who are listening, in 2011,
Yeah.
a Welsh filmmaker called Gareth Evans made a movie called The Raid, which was about a police attack on a tower block. And the tower block is full of criminals, and the hero has to fight his way to the top to go and do whatever he needs to do. And where I found that was quite amazing is that he made that film in Indonesia. And it's all done in, the local languages of Indonesia, and it's an American style punch up karate film, but done in an entirely local way, using everything locally in order to make it, including not, I mean, nobody speaks English in it, nobody speaks Dutch in it. It's done in the local languages. And, you know, there's no reason for us not to make those kinds of films in each other's cities at all.
Let's chat about the technology of it all, right? Let's talk about the opportunities that we have from an AI perspective. Oh God, I think now in a dictionary, you must just scratch out the word technology, just scratch it out, guys, and just put AI. Like that's all we talk about these days. Before it was a 4IR and it was something else, but scratch out the words. So
Well,
now,
but the big question is now, is it even technology or is it now just life? And
woo, whoa, okay,
is this not the way that we now live our lives? Whether, you know,
it is life. I mean, I think my daughter definitely has her phone as an additional, limb or something. So it is life. We live and breathe. You can't breathe without a phone. When the kids go walk into the house, like, what's the Wi-Fi code? First thing they ask, what's the Wi-Fi code? Not can I have water or can I use the toilet? What's the Wi-Fi code? But anyway, let's talk about the opportunity that new technologies has for us to be able to first of all promote our location, our continent as a location, our continent as a strong equipment base, growingly strong equipment base, has a very strong in many nodes, very strong production community. And I think the fact that we are making our own content, guys, globally, I hope you're listening very carefully, but the fact that we are making our own content means we have teams on the ground across everywhere. I mean, there was a stat I learned of many years ago that Angola is actually one of the biggest production countries, film producing countries, but only because they are radical and they are hustlers about it, right? So
like Nigeria used to be back in the day.
right? So we're able to do it for ourselves. So yes, we can do it for the rest of the world. But anyway, coming back to my point, what does that look like for us to be able to really just embrace that technology? Because it's on all of our phones, right? It sits in our
Well, and that's when I'm saying, when I started this conversation, I was talking about the abundance versus scarcity mindset.
yeah.
Um, what I think for filmmakers making their own stuff, the opportunity for AI is to move into a world of abundance. I mean, abundance in terms of production. Let's it's not necessary abundance in terms of audience yet. But you've got the AI programs that help you write scripts, and not just necessarily writing the script itself, but in the brainstorming of plot and the development of characters and the workshopping of the tone and the even as far I was working on something yesterday and I was curious, so I fed it into ChatGPT and I got I don't even know what the word is. It's so unusual for me. The tags that would be used in search within Netflix for that particular TV series. And this is all stuff that, of course it's not 100% accurate. You have to check everything, et cetera, et cetera. But it allows you to move so much faster
Yeah.
towards the creation of product than was ever possible before. And then, in terms of pre-production, you've got all of the scheduling tools and the other preparatory processes, shooting schedules, availability of actors, all of that will become AI related. Um, even, I mean, I would imagine, I haven't heard of anything in specific, but they will start analyzing locations. Certainly, what I've used as well is feeding in different film commissions, incentive programs, and saying, provide me with the best way to structure this production with I need these locations. These are the potential locations I've thought in terms of incentives. How does this deal look if you put all of these things together? And we'll come up and say, film on location here and in studio there and do the post-production there, and you get the benefit of all of their incentives. So all of these things, I think, move us from a position where we are essentially waiting for gatekeepers to give us go ahead to do stuff
Yeah.
into situations where we are now in control of our own destinies, at least a little bit more um,
Yeah.
in moving. And then, obviously the editing software is becoming seamless. The music creation. I mean, the thing that I found really fun is in terms of putting together pitch decks, that in the old days you would be, stealing photographs and hoping that you could get away with it from the perspective of being able to say, this is being presented for educational purposes, which it is.
Yeah.
But then, now you're able with the image and video generating software, you can create mood boards, you can create character presentations, you can create locations presentations, and write down, you're creating the trailers for films now without even having to go on set once. So the potential for a local film industry to be able to, completely change its own narrative from one of scarcity to one of abundance is quite good because you're still going to need to try and find the money to make the damn thing, but the potential for you to take your ideas from, hey, I've got a great idea for a film, into something that people can look at and go, I get what they're trying to do with this, and I'm going to give them some money to make this, I think, has exponentially changed.
All right. So we're gonna be rounding up a little bit. So there's a lot of that's come out of this, and I think there's opportunity for us to further have another conversation in a couple of months to kind of clear filter out because there's gonna be a lot of questions, I'm sure. Is what should we do to create the success that we want? The African Union has, the Africa we want. And I think that's a beautiful, focus point. What do we want? Because then it gives us direction, it gives us a North Star. We start to determine our future. But coming back to the question that I asked at the beginning was, what does success look like for the African film industry, in particular, the African locations film industry? It's a very different part of it. And what should we do to achieve that success? We have said that what it looks like is exponential because we have all of these opportunities. We have, some of the youngest economy. We have the youngest economy around the world. We are leading in terms of economic growth and GDP. UNESCO did the study that the African film industry is growing at 5.2% per annum, which is massive, which is bigger than most other economies. Um, there's growth in film-induced tourism. There's all of these things, and those are the things that are success out. But what should we actually do if you were to say, as I mean, you know what? In my opinion, in my humble opinion, these three things will help propel, but and they are easy to achieve now. Go.
Okay, nothing is easy to achieve now. Nothing. And particularly not if you're looking at a kind of Pan-African perspective. At a local level,
Yeah.
um, I think we can start to unpack because I mean, one of the reasons that I'm in Serbia is that I came to work for the Prime Minister here for her creative industries program um, that identified that the creative industries was one of three priority sectors. And I did a lot of research initially on what creative industries need to flourish. And that, um, and that includes film studios, but it also involves broader kind of film communities. Um, and but it also was music communities, art communities, fashion communities. And interestingly, they all need the same combination of support in terms of flourishing.
Yeah.
So the first thing anyone needs to do is know who your community is. Need to know who they are and what they're doing and what they're working on at what level. That's the fundamental. And I think if we challenged many of our colleagues,
Yeah.
they would not have a clear idea of that
Okay.
because it tends to be that you only can't get people's notice when they bring something to you. But there's a whole bunch of other people doing stuff at a different level. So, almost like auditing who's doing what in the industry and at what level becomes really useful. Interestingly, in a South African context, you've got things like I mean, I'm sure if it still exists, the Filmmaker's Guide and the
Yeah.
whole lot directories. And so you've got an idea of it, but it never really felt to me like a kind of living document of people that you were able to, dig into. So first of all, who are they and at what level are they working? Secondly, there are two things that are needed in any industrial process. And the first is vertical integration with international markets and local markets. So, in other words, it doesn't matter whether you're a producer or a stunt actor, you need to have contact with people who are bringing in fresh ideas and bringing in fresh money, right? So making sure that the international representation of that community happens and there are opportunities for people to connect beyond their immediate circle, that's something we can look at. The second thing from that connection perspective is the horizontal connection, and that's bringing together groups of people who have similar, bringing together producers from different groups who are working on similar things because then you have that sparking of ideas, that sparking of standards, of raising the game, of, oh, yes, I'm bringing in this thing. Oh, really? You're doing it like that? Fantastic. We should look at doing that too. And so the horizontal and the vertical connections that you build are things that, again, every creative industry needs. But I think in the film industry, which is so driven by multiple people at multiple levels doing jobs that contribute, I think that that's really important. Um, Beyond that, the other things that, I mean, we've already touched on this a bit, the legal structures that allow the business to flourish
Mhm.
need to be in place.
Yeah.
Again, we don't often know what the constraints are until we face them. But one of the things that I keep hearing about South Africa is how um, rules keep changing that don't necessarily consider the film industry, like, firearms on set or whatever. All these kind of things that focus on making sure that the legal environment is one that platforms the production of content, not constrains it.
Mm.
Access to funding and finance of different sorts.
Yeah.
Um, that can only only grow. Another one that happens just about everywhere is the need for infrastructure.
Yeah.
And whether that is film schools or film studios or environments where film clubs, uh, you name it, that kind of thing is stuff that we should all be looking at. And again, you can see how these really require leadership at a provincial or a state or a national level in order to have that kind of vision and control that can bring all of these things together. But as I said, for me, the first three things are things that are
Yeah.
people driven. Who are you? Where are you? What are you doing? How can we connect you with your peers? How can we connect you with the outside world? Those are the three fundamentals, I think.
Wow. So, and I think this is probably the reason why, we started Locations Africa way back in the day. It was, you know, just trying to bring the information together, to be a connector, to be a team of people who are open and willing to kind of, yes, make money. I mean, we want to make money. Everyone wants to make money, but I think over and above that is to kind of circulate that money within this community called Africa, right? Bring people in. I mean, we're warm people. We want to feed you. I mean, we want to feed you our talent. We want to feed you our crews. We want to feed you our infrastructure. Yes, we may not have the best, and there's a lot of hand-me-downs as we spoke about, but it's not to say that the skills are not there and are not willing. We do need to make sure and empower the politicians to make.
I've just thought this is something that we've talked about many times over the years, and it's something that gets lost within the structures. Um, the fundamental decision about companies coming to film in Africa is cost versus risk. And every decision that they are going to look at about where they go is going to balance issues of cost with issues of risk. And so you can be, I mean, I'm sure you can probably film very cheaply in South Sudan. I'm sure that there are no permit requirements and no, local BE rules or anything else restricting your ability to film that. So you could probably fly into South Sudan and make something very quickly and cheaply. But the fact that there's a war zone at the moment makes the risk of doing so disproportionate, right? In the same way, you can film in New York City,
But the
but
cost,
the cost of doing so
yes.
is exponential. So every filmmaker is looking for that perfect balance of cost versus risk. And some maybe, the cost is so, especially studio productions, which have got all of the kind of, guarantees and insurances and blah, 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 blah. Local films may have a different kind of balance. Now, where it behooves us as African film professionals is we have to build platforms of trust, of trustworthiness in terms of if you come here at this time, the permit will happen smoothly. The gates will be open when you said they would be. The crew will turn up and they will not be demanding overtime if you work more than an 8-hour day. All of these things are things that we need to put in place across the continent so that when filmmakers choose Africa, the trust component is right up there. They trust us that they can spend their money with us wisely and we will not blow it for them. For many of them, this is a once-off shot. They've raised that little bit of budget. Are they going to go somewhere where they trust? Are they going to go to New Mexico or to Georgia, where they can also find Black people in abundance and interesting locations? Or are they going to come to Africa where they're going to get authenticity, but they don't trust that they can get it done within budget safely, blah, blah. So for us, I think the building of the doing this preparation work, making sure that our communities are film ready, making sure that our film commissions are functioning at full effectiveness, that they've got their networks in place. That is where this balance becomes vital for the next decade.
Yeah, I'm gonna end it there because for me, that's it. That's what we should do to create this level of success. And I think definitely it starts with us. We have to be the ones that are blowing the horn, being the advocate, and using our locations and saying where we are, guys. There's nothing wrong in saying where you are in the script because it starts to really help the next person coming in, and it starts to help that particular state environment to say, oh, okay, more people are coming in. That means I can then start moving money around for more films because da, da, da. And all of these
And
reality.
to give you an idea, one of the very first things I did when I joined the Cape Film Commission, I ended up sitting on a plane next to someone, and it was something like The Amazing Race. It wasn't The Amazing Race, but it was a one of those TV shows, Eco Challenge or something like that,
Yeah,
where people raced across country. And she said, "So what have you got in the Western Cape?" And at that point, I'd literally been in the job for about 2 days and I had no idea where to find the information. And so what I did was I sat down and I thought, okay, what is a show like that likely to need? Okay, so they're going to need not only the camera equipment and the crew and those kind of things, which I could find through the whole lot directory and the
yeah.
other Screen Africa guides and that kind of thing, but also tented camps, Land Rover hire, 4x4 hires, motocross, the little buggies that you could, because I was thinking about what their project would need to be filming at a distance from the city. And so I went through the yellow pages and I went through, and so I was putting forward, I probably wouldn't do this now without checking, but putting forward businesses that could benefit.
Mm.
And she told me it was the best package of information she'd had because I was literally going to, but so then as a film commissioner, then what I would need to do is then go out to those businesses and go, hey, Africa 4x4 thing, you might be renting your cars to some filmmakers. This is what you need to expect. These are 12-hour shoots. This is, they're going to be using them in rugged terrain. If you need insurance for it or special drivers, let me know about that now. And so that kind of work behind the scenes so that when somebody comes and goes, I want this, I'm interested in this, you can go, oh, well, we can make that happen for you. We've got that.
Thank you for your insight on what we need to do to create success for our African locations industry. It's not just about coming and just kind of using our savannas. It's about using our businesses in a very special way. But Martin Cuff, thank you so much. You're my dearest friend like one of my closest and bestest friends, literally. And
Likewise.
you're
Likewise.
like
Don't know what I would do without you.
I don't know what I'd do without you. Your brain is ridiculous. Like, can you just like, if anything happens, can you just like put your brain somewhere and in your voice, and then I'll just leave it on my desk, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna tap into the brain right now. But I love you so much for being part of this. Thank you so much for the sex, for the tools and instruments for success for our continent. And I wish you all the best for everything that you're ever gonna do. But this is not the last time I'm gonna talk to you. I'm going to take this, I'm gonna break it up into like 10 different podcasts and we'll touch base.
And
But
then we can come back and talk about each of those.
of course, that's the intention. Love you so much. Thank you so much, Martin,
Okay.
for your time.
Bye.
Bye. Right, guys, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And I think that from there, it's clear that what we need to do on the continent is just pay attention to what we want to do. It's not going to fall from the sky. It's it's for us to be intentional about what we're trying to do in this industry, about being more intentional about how we position ourselves and not be reliant upon the rest of the world to shoot films here. It's about being reliant on ourselves and our ideas and our abilities and our economy, and to say to the point to do it and not always pander to what the rest of the world wants. Be very conscious and aware of your ability because we'll make it happen. This has been Locations Africa podcast, and I thank you all for participating and being with us. And Africa is always and always will be open for production. Thank you. And it's like, that was funny. Oh my God, Martin, you're my first podcast, but you're going to be released as like my third or fourth or something. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. How much fun was that? So that was going to happen. So funny, right? So I'm going to actually change my clothes for the next one.
Amazing.
Because it's gonna look like I changed. I'm gonna do my whole hair differently, and it's gonna be a whole thing. But you know, it is right. So we're gonna be talking like podcast. What do you call this? Dubbing guy. There's an amazing team called Amafu here. Oh my God, they're the best dubbing team I know. If you need any dubbing, don't go to anywhere in the world. Please come to Amafu. These guys are amazing, and they'll do anything for you for.
And again, just think about the opportunity for dubbing and distributing your films in East Africa. I mean, I went on here now. Let me see if I still got it open. Um, Swahili is 230 million people.
No,
Under,
they are here, and this is why they started up because they was like, where do we play? Where should we play in this space of equipment and technology? And they chose this, and I was like, these guys like they know the future. They are so
and
future.
what's interesting is that I th I think that Africa will because we're not at their top of mind awareness yet in terms of the economic opportunity. Um, Lingala and what are the other Hausa, Amharic, the tech giants that are producing simultaneous translation are not going to be working on those languages,
Well, I'm off.
right? So if they can focus on those African languages that are currently unsupported by the global tech giants, then they've got a long business ahead of them.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to them. But thank you, my honey. I'm
Right,
going
my
to
darling, I must go.